Welcome back. If you just joined us, you are watching KTN Prime, and we are in the discussion beat where we're talking about the Garissa attack 11 years later, and we have at least a good panel talking about this discussion tonight. John, when we were on a short break, one of the things you've mentioned, of course, is the fact that even in your attempt to try and get compensation for the victims, you're told, as you say, some of the government, in this case the finance ministry, saying other victims have not been compensated from past events, so perhaps you need to wait.
Yes, that is a problem we have when it comes to assessing compensation for victims of human rights violations here in the country. You find, for example, this judgment we got in the year 2024. Until date, we are still pursuing that compensation. Unfortunately, you have to follow the process, that is the judicial review process. That is where you cite government institutions like the Ministry of Finance, the PS, Ministry of Finance, to come before court and seek that they are compelled to pay that compensation. And actually that compensation was awarded by the court. So a long process, and again, when it comes to government or the Ministry of Finance, they tell you that it was not budgeted in the year, like for example next year or this year. So that means a longer wait for victims or for survivors. For now, we are still pursuing through the judicial review proceedings. Hopefully, once we are successful there, we will be able now to follow with the ministry. But again, like I said, if you pursue with the ministry, they again tell you that we have the 1982 victims that are still waiting. So their judgment could have been in the year 2003, 2004. So we don't know how long we will have to wait. So as an organization like Kituo cha Sheria, we are considering filing a suit where the government should be compelled to have a fund where victims of human rights violations can access compensation through that fund.
Nelius, I mean, this particular case in court, sufficient evidence was tabled. The court was furnished with enough evidence to show some of the basic allegations that were presented by the parents who are aggrieved, parents who lost loved ones, some who, have been left wondering, why would this happen to my children? What do you make about the government's response to this matter? Because like John mentions here, it's a question of, okay, other events have happened and the victims of those events are yet to be compensated, so you need to wait. What does this speak of the respect for life in this country?
It's quite a sad situation, because what has been happening is the government, when something is happening, you'll notice politicians are there, they are making statements, they are talking in the media, but then once, maybe even after a week or two, they will forget and they will never speak about it again. And that kind of amnesia means that, as Janai was saying, it's a robotic way of, there is no humanity in the sense of that it's like something, it's gone, they're forgotten about it. And that speaks to the point of that, why is it the government is treating human life so casually, and yet they have an obligation to protect life? Because even part of what the court held in the Kituo cha Sheria case is that the government has a positive obligation to protect the right to life, because the right to life is the supreme right. Without the right to life, if you're not alive, you won't enjoy anything else in life. You have to be alive to experience the other rights and enjoy all the other rights. And therefore, that's why even under the Constitution, if you have noticed the Bill of Rights, the right to life is the first right that is listed under Article 26. Before all other rights, you have to be alive. And therefore, it's quite sad when the government takes it so casually, such that even not just the Garissa University victims and survivors, even other previous victims and survivors are yet to be compensated. Even the ongoing, if you look even at the victims of the recent last year, 2024, 2025 protests. There is no compensation, even though there is this framework that is being prepared by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights about reparations. For me, it seems it's just an optics-based kind of thinking where let's just seem like we are doing something, but we are not really doing anything to help and advance justice and the protection of human rights for the victims and survivors. And also, that kind of thinking is also why the survivors are stuck, because Rachel and Janai here are yet to get closure. They are still waiting for their justice. They are still waiting to get closure in this case. And part of closure is that their rights needs to be vindicated by them getting that compensation, because the court already awarded it to them. And at least it's not that it will help them that much, but it's a vindication of their rights that I went through this. At least something to show that they acknowledge that I went through this and my pain is seen, and therefore I can at least be vindicated by getting this compensation.
Yes. Rachel.
Yes.
What do you feel about how the government has handled your story? Because you are not on a wheelchair previously, but now you have to do life on a wheelchair, perhaps, depending on the goodwill of people around you to move you around sometimes, perhaps. But what do you feel about how the government has handled your matter?
Initially, I was very happy and excited because the government accepted that they had a mistake. It was not easy to get our case listened to. We had a very rough journey, and because we couldn't afford our lawyers, like we couldn't hire our own lawyers to pursue the case until the Kituo cha Sheria intervened and were willing to take on our case and to do it on a pro bono, without us having to pay them. So after having our case filed in the court, we were so happy and excited that we now can see some light in the case, and we were hoping that we will be vindicated. Then after the case was ruled and we were to be compensated, there was a date given for us to be paid. So we waited, but we didn't receive our compensation, and worries start creeping in, because we don't know whether we will see our justice, or whether the effort that we put will bring in fruits.
Have you ever heard from any government ministry, perhaps reaching out to find out how you're doing as a survivor?
No, not yet. We haven't. Actually, the only people who came in were the Kituo cha Sheria. Beforehand, we had to survive on asking for donations from people so that I could go to hospital or to take care of the moments where it was not easy for because I come from a humble background, and this was not something that my parents expected to experience. So it was tough, both physically, because they now have to strain to sustain me and to sustain other siblings, as well as the finances were not coming in, because now they have to spend a lot of energy in and out of the hospital. So even the small jobs they were doing to sustain the family they were not now able to concentrate on them. So the financial was a problem. And when we heard that we would be compensated, we were so happy, but we haven't seen any result.
Rachel, would you say you feel perhaps the Kenyan government has failed you as far as your story is concerned?
I feel so, because first of all, they didn't protect us enough in school. Then secondly, when we came up, it was a struggle even to get justice after that, Now we have we are in the stage where they have already accepted, but they haven't paid us, but they haven't compensated us. We feel like they are neglecting us. Yeah.
Janai, your feeling about this?
It's a very sad story. You see, if you have not passed there, it seems that it's very easy. If you are not wearing the shoe, you cannot feel the shoe. As Rachel is saying, I'm trying to use her example because she's a living and you can see the status how she is. I'm trying to think kama government ingeweza kumpatia hizo pesa kidogo hizo, maybe angeweza kujifanyia vitu zake. You have heard Marie saying that anasaidia na babake. Sijui how women take things. Nilikuwa najaribu kufikiria, if I'm a woman, that mimi sasa I'm a woman, nasaidiwa na baba yangu kwenda choo. How does it sound in African culture, as Marie said? It's very painful. I remember wakati wa 2015, my second born daughter alikuwa form 2. After the attack, alikataa kwenda shule. Kaniuliza, kwa nini niende shule na nitakufa? Kamwambia ni huyo, ni utajuaje kama ni watanikujia hata na mimi? So afadhali nikae nyumbani. At least unione kuliko nikufe kama dadangu vile amefanya nini? Amekufa. So, and so many, watoto wengine walikataa shule. Kutafuta pia counselors, hizo sessions.
Has the government, by the way, given you any support in getting counseling services?
No, nothing.
Even for your daughter who's now left behind?
There is nothing that government did after that.
Rachel, did you get any counseling offers, perhaps from the government? Support on that at least?
No. I didn't receive any.
There was no any support from the government for the counseling. Watu wachache waliopata counseling was through Red Cross. And it was for a very short time. It took almost 3 months, your counseling measure. Kama haujafikiwa ni shauri yako. Now, in 3 months, umepata counseling gani? Let me use her example. Her mother died immediately. Alipo confirm that Kirecho atakuwa in that status for life. Kama angelipata counseling, angekufa. Angekufa. Naona Rachel anasema baba yake hana kazi. Ile kibarua alikuwa anafanya iliisha because taking care of her. And age is going. In few years to come, hataendelea kumsupport. Atakaaje? Sijui tunaelewa. Pia yeye anaendelea kuwa aged. Mungu anaweza kumjalia afike 80. Angeipata hizo pesa kidogo angeweka kabiashara. Aweza kumsukuma. But she has nothing to do. Angeenda watu hospitali, angeweza kupata matibabu. But there's nothing he can do. How many mawazo gani ambayo babaka anapitia every day because of taking care of her? I was trying to think, kama Rachel angekataa shule, aseme siendelee na shule, angekuwa hivi. Najaribu kufikiria kama babake. Najaribu kufikiria mtoto wangu angekataa shule, angekuwa.
Janai, by the way, how is your daughter coping? Because your daughter now has to live with has to face the reality that her sister is no more. How is she doing right now?
It took me a lot of effort, my resources, kutafuta counsel and a counsel. By that time, when you are in need, some people take that advantage. Sessions ambazo ingekupatia at a cheaper cost, sasa na hike because you are in that need. Nilijaribu lakini hakuweza kufanya vizuri vile nilitarajia kufanya kwa shule.
John.
Because of that trauma.
We'll come back to you, Janai. One of the key questions I've always asked in this country, we have Gen Z's issues of mental health, and one of the very, very key things that the young people need, and even in cases like this one, is counseling. Counseling services in the country are very expensive. You go to a counseling center and you can find the services going at about 2,500 per session. Is there a possibility that the government can just work on this and make counseling services affordable to cater for such cases, you know, being able to attend to people who have faced such scenarios?
Yeah, I think we have a problem as a nation where the government has failed to support its people. If you look at the Garissa University attack, this is a case where government has left its citizens to their own devices. There is a big problem of poverty. I think Janai was just talking about it. Many of the parents who took their children to Garissa University are not parents who can take their children to some of the private universities here in the country. They cannot take their students to the UK, their children to the UK. So the only place that they could take them is to Garissa University. And they were trying to see whether after them gaining education, they will be able to eke out a living. But unfortunately, again, their lives are cut short. So this exacerbates the already problem that was there. The family problem now is also enhanced by this attack. Going back to what you said, I also feel that the government has an obligation to provide psychosocial support to some of these parents and to also the survivors. There is that obligation, and it also goes further to the fact that that obligation extends to even that compensation. Does Janai need to prove that the government neglected on its duties for the government to support? I don't think so. I think the government should provide compensation. The government should also provide that psychosocial support without being compelled by anyone, without being moved by anyone.
John, have there been any arrests or even convictions as far as this attack is concerned?
Yes, there were convictions. There was a criminal case where some of the perpetrators were actually arrested and they are serving sentences. So at least to that extent, we can say that justice was served. We are also happy, like Rachel has said, there was another listening ear because nobody was listening to them. No government officer or a state officer has gone to their home to tell them sorry, apart from an apology I think the former president Uhuru Kenyatta issued. But at least we can see the wheels of justice moving, if at all the convictions took place. We hope that this compensation will come in without delay.
All right. Nelius, I think a question that begs, as even as I listen to John, is the issue of terror financing and facilitators. And the question, of course, would be, was the network of those groups involved in this terror attack fully exposed? Would you say it was fully exposed at this time?
The terror financing was not fully exposed because the way they were operating is by hiding. It's a form of hiding money such that it's so hard to trace the financing. And from that point, not much has been done because it's hard to trace it. Therefore, it's hard to take action to know who is funding, but tracing the money is the difficult task. And perhaps that's something that the government needs to, with their intelligence and working with other international intelligence organs, to trace and be able to, because the financing is what facilitates these terror attacks. So it would be important for through intelligence to be able to trace this. But it was a challenge. Yes.
Yes, I think also immediately after the attack, the then leader of majority, flanked by MPs from northeastern part of the country, he was able to say that he is ready to name the financiers of that terrorist attack. Unfortunately, until to date, we have not seen any accountability. As far as I know, he's now a minister in the current government. Maybe with time, we may need him to come forth and account and tell us who are these financiers. You know.
A good question. We've just, been going through a new wave of what we call goons in the country. We hear of 14 suspects linked to the attack against Vihiga Senator Godfrey Osotsi. Speaking of how security seems to have lapsed in the country, John, just to hear from you, what do you make about, border control failures in the country?
Yeah, that problem has been there as far back as 1998. You understand that Al-Shabaab were able to attack us because of the porous borders that we have in the country. And that problem has been there. Sorry. You find that most of these attacks, and there are many in the country, we have experienced these attacks because of the porosity of our borders. And we hope that the government will be more stringent in terms of what comes in and what goes out. So that is a problem that we have as a country. And strangely, that is not a problem that we have as the East Africa community. You look at even Ethiopia, they were in Somalia. You look at Uganda, they were in Somalia too. But they have not experienced as many attacks as we have. So it is a problem that we have as a country. And maybe it's a problem because of corrupt state officers who are unable to man our borders. It's a problem that we have as a country. Maybe it's time that we need to sit down and reflect. We have so many terror attacks here in the country. We are leaving people in this state. Maybe it's a national conversation, a national discourse that we need to have so that we have a way forward. Because tomorrow it's this attack. We are hearing of attacks against members of parliament and such things. So many human rights violations that I think as a country we need to sit down and see how to address that. Otherwise, we may be moving towards a banana republic.
All right. Nelius, when you listen to what John is saying in terms of, and it feels like he's talking about intelligence gaps and security lapse at the border points of the country, what would you say can be an ideal call to action as far as addressing the intelligence gaps of security in the country?
One thing I can say is that there needs to be more individual responsibilities for state officers, because even when something happens or a terror attack, the blame is on KDF, it's on the police, it's never the actual intelligence officers perhaps who overlooked the warnings. It's not the county commissioners or the inspector general of police himself who maybe overlooked some of these things, or at the border if it's someone who is corrupt. There needs to be accountability, individual accountability, such that action is taken against any person who is found not doing their work and their duties and not performing their obligations, so that that might act as a deterrence to other people taking their work just lightly, so that you know that you can be sued on your own, you can be liable, you can be found that your liability, you are on your own, you can even be prosecuted. Because sadly, the officers, yes, there were the terrorists who were charged and convicted, but the officers who had received these intelligence, who were aware of these security concerns, who didn't take any action, they were only suspended for a short time and then they went back to work and it was business as usual. And therefore that makes it easy for there to be laxity. As a state officer, I'm protected in my office. I can make whatever decisions I want to make. There is no action. I'll just be suspended for the optics once the media moves on.
Basically, there's no deterrent for
yes, there's no
failing
deterrence.
to exercise your duty.
Exactly.
I know we need to close, and just in just brief remarks from you, Rachel and Janai, I just want to hear, what can you tell the government? What's your call for action to the government tonight?
I believe in the government. I do trust that we haven't gotten to the place where the government is unable to compensate us or to protect us. And so I look forward for the government to please compensate us so that we can have a better life. Actually, the attack took much more of our life. Like, it can't be like it was before, but with the compensation, we'll not remain stuck. We'll be able to move on and have a better life than the one which we are having right now.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Janai, briefly.
Thank you. Nasema that the government should not act as a robot. If they want to show that they are not working as a robot, let them do the call. That make this journey to be short to the brave ones.
Right.
That the case about the iko kotini saa hizi, let them call it off. Waseme kujene, let us settle this thing to Mali. You are our citizens. You are our people. I'm trying to think. You see, I can appeal this to Mama Rachel.
All right.
The Mama Rachel. Mke wa Rais, Mama Rachel. This second name, ako kwa wheelchair, anasaidiwa na baba yake. I'm trying to think Mama Rachel afikirie kama ni mtoto wake anasaidiwa ama ni yeye anasaidiwa na baba yake. How will she feel?
Thank you so much, Janai. I know we need to close the conversation. Very lovely to have had this conversation with you all. Thank you for making time and the bravery to give us the account of what happened to your loved ones, and to you as well, Rachel. It's really brave to be able to come here and share your stories. Thank you so much for making time. John Mwariri, legal empowerment advocate at the Kituo cha Sheria. Of course, also Nelias Njuguna, who is a human rights lawyer, and Rachel Gikonyo, a terror attack survivor. Thank you for making time. And Janai Njeka, bereaved father. Thank you for making time. And we hope that you do find that closure and healing, complete healing, and that compensation that you really, really desire. Thank you so much for watching KTN Prime tonight. That has been a conversation about the Garissa University attack 11 years later. My name is Leangari. My sign language interpreter this evening has been Meresha Owiti. Thank you for watching. Have a good night and God bless you.